Okay, everyone, this is Daniel, and I am with our friend Bethany in Australia. Bethany, you want to say hello?
Hello.
That's right. Love the accent, always have. You're back home now, but we first met because you were a member of Redemption Church. Can you just explain to us a little bit of who you are and how you became a part of Redemption Church?
Yeah, I moved to America and I wasn't actually going to church at the time or following the Lord. And I guess it was that my grandmother died and it was kind of like a catalyst to do something, you know. I knew I wasn't following the Lord and my cousin Charlie, he wasn't going to church either, but he stumbled upon you guys and then he introduced me to you guys. And then, he eventually moved away, and I stayed with you guys for a bit, and it was really awesome. I don't even know exactly what I was looking for or why I was at church, but like, I'm very, very glad that I did. I certainly wouldn't be here today if I didn't. So,
Yeah. Um, how did going to church and being a part of like the family of God and just a local church help you grow in your walk with God? Because you said you had some past experiences of walking with Jesus, but you weren't really walking with Him. How did that help you?
oh, I did a full 180. So it was like everything from like the music, the teaching, the community groups, those three things combined just drew me back to the Lord, and the Lord just used every single one of those things to bring me back. Um, and being with a small community type church helped as well, because I guess not only accountability, but you're noticed if you're there, if you're not there, if you're upset or if you're happy, people notice and they, can talk to you. Whereas when you go into a big church, sometimes you walk in, you walk out, and nobody even knows you were there.
Yeah.
So it was specifically Redemption Church was beneficial to me in that it was a smaller community type of place.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed something that you're not here with us anymore. You went back home to your country. Uh, could you just tell us why you went home? Because we have a lot of people that leave our church or South Florida is very transient. And for you, what's your story of just going home and why did you do that?
Yeah, well, I actually had originally planned to stay forever, and I wanted to just make a life there. I think the Lord had other plans. Like, certainly I was supposed to be there for a time, but it was just, it was like, it wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Hmm.
Like, I really wanted to make a good go of it. People had invested in me. I had invested in me. Like, I'd given up everything to be there. So I really wanted to make a good go of it. So I stuck it out for a good 3 years. But I was just incredibly alone and like without my family and my parents. And um, so, just the stress of providing financially and just the it just got so much that I was just incredibly depressed, and I just knew something had to change. I knew it was time to come back home.
Yeah. And because you felt that call to go back home from circumstances, from God, just going back, how have you now grown in your relationship with Jesus, even though you've left us, the beloved Redemption Church?
Well, actually, it was really heartbreaking to leave because I have never been a part of a church that is so much, so personable and so just helpful personally. Like, such a beautiful little community that I had there. So I miss that dearly. There's nothing like it here, where I am. There's not much of a church community. So I feel like I've come away from a great church family, and you guys are kind of still my church family because I don't have anyone else. Like, there's little groups here and there which have been great here in Australia, but nothing like what you guys have. So I feel very blessed and very lucky what you guys have because I really miss that. Um, I've grown a lot actually. Even though I don't have you guys, it's interesting. When I first arrived back in Australia and I landed on Australian soil, it was like, I can breathe finally. It was like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And so since then I've really been able to take root and grow. Um, I found like when I was in Florida, there was like, I had a lot of angst and confusion, and there was so many things like attacking all the time. Whereas I've been able to like find a place where I can just sort of, like I said, take root. I've just noticed that in the last year that I've been back home, that I've been able to identify certain things, like attacks of the enemy, whereas back in Florida, there's things I would have fallen for and not even realized it. Now I can see them coming a long way away. I'm like, oh no, I know what that means, and I can steer clear of it. So
Yeah.
I think I've grown quite a lot.
Now we have a heart for Australia. We supported a church planter in Australia, Brian Henderson, and could you give us a little bit of a spiritual climate of Australia? Because I think a lot of people are like, when you say, "Oh, well, there's not going to be any churches here," you're literally meaning like there's not a lot of believers in Australia.
Yeah,
It's not like, "Oh, I'm shopping and there's this and that." Like you're not in the main city. You're out sort of,
yeah.
explain to them where you're at and sort of the spiritual climate of Australia.
Yeah, I'm out in more of a country area. It's very, very beautiful scenery. You'd absolutely love it. However, there's not a lot of church going on. There's a couple little churches. They're mostly just a sprinkling of older people. Um, the local church has no pastor, and it has for a long time. They're still looking for somebody to take on that role. Um, and so yeah, there's sort of two little churches in the area, and they're a little bit at odds with each other. Like there's not a huge amount of unity, which is something that you could be praying for if it comes to your mind. So you've got churches with no leadership or very little leadership. The Indigenous churches are really struggling because the Indigenous people die very soon. So, they have a shorter lifespan than we do. So their elders and their leaders in the churches are dying off, and there's no young people coming up to take their place. So
Hmm.
it's a rough climate here spiritually. Like we really need missionaries here in Australia, as well as, even though I have a heart for other places, but there is a lot of need, and um, we're just going through the process of the government might be possibly changing the rules about same-sex marriage. And so, that means the whole education system will change, and the laws will change. It's very discriminatory against Christians or people who take a hard line of believing exactly what the Bible says.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very difficult climate. Like you'll lose your job if you say that you don't support same-sex marriage.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting to know that because there's need all over the world, and sometimes it's good to hear those stories to know how blessed we are and the freedoms that we have. And so, like you said, even Australia, where you're at, even though it's your home, there's a great need for Jesus, church planting, just
Yeah,
all that
huge
stuff.
need.
But the reason why I'm talking to you and letting people know is because you not only have for a heart for your home, Australia, but you are going on a mission trip to Brazil. So explain the connection there. You went from Florida to Australia and now Brazil. I know this is going to make Andre and Angie very happy.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? Andre and Angie have been such an amazing influence. Please, if you see them, if you're in church right now watching this or in a community group and they're there, just like pause this video, walk over, give them a massive hug, and just tell them that they're loved, and just bless them somehow. I don't know, buy them some food or give them a cupcake, please. I've met some very influential Brazilian people over the years. It first started 11 years ago. If you want the whole story, you have to go to the website because I put it on there. I'm not going to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, what's the
Um,
website
Beth,
again?
www.bethbrazil.org. Very
Okay.
simple. Beth
Beth
Brazil,
Brazil.
ORG. Yep, there's a story on there. So my first compassion child was through a Brazilian child, and I started to research more about her circumstances, and my heart just broke. And it's always been there in my heart. Like I just always wanted to go to South America when people were asking me, or what would you do, or this or that. I said, oh, South America. It's always South America. I want to go to South America, and specifically Brazil. Like, I have a huge heart for them. And so just meeting people like Andre and Angie and some other special ones that I met along the way just gave me even more heart and desire. And I just love their country. I don't even know why. I've never even been there yet. This will be my first time. But I just have so much love for those people. Like, I can't explain it, but I desperately want to go and help out.
That's amazing. And God actually opened you a door to go on a mission trip.
Yeah.
When is that, and how did He open that door for you to go?
Yeah, well, that's going to happen in January, and it's really interesting how it happened because the only person who got back to me about saying I wanted to go on a short-term missions trip somewhere in South America, the one person who got back to me, who said, "We have missionaries. They desperately need help. They're in Brazil." I'm like, no way. And it was the same organization that my parents came to Australia through. So we're all actually American, believe it or not. But we moved to Australia as missionaries. So my parents planted a church, and now they just live here because they love Australia.
Hmm.
So it's the same organization that my parents came through, which was really ironic. And the people, Nathan and Diane Frey, that I'll be assisting, they studied and graduated with some really good friends of ours who are also missionaries in Australia. So it was like, it was a God thing for sure.
That's pretty awesome. So you're going in January, and then you're going to be gone, I think, for a month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, the
And
whole month of January.
so, what are you going to do in the whole month of January in Brazil on your short-term mission trip?
Yeah, well, the Freys need as much help as they can get. This is their camp season. So they'll be running camps for kids. They have a heart for the disabled. So there'll be a week where we're working with the disabled kids camp. There'll be a week that I'm working with English speaking camp. So kids that come and they want to learn more English, we try and teach a lot of English during that week. But the main thing, the most important thing, is that the church needs to get out of the existing building. I say building, it's actually a garage with a concrete floor, no air conditioning, no heating. Plumbing is just very minimal. You know, it's a rough place that they're living in, right across from a really busy bar, pub, whatever you call it there. They desperately need to get out. They've had the land for 7 years. But they haven't been able to build because they have to pay bribes in order to build on this land, and they refused to pay the bribes. It's God's house. They weren't going to do that. So they finally have a window. So the most important thing to do is to get this new building built in the short period of time that they have before their window closes and the government officials stop the progress.
Hmm.
So, yeah, there's 2 weeks of camp, and then the rest is just building. Hopefully they already have some walls up and some ceiling by the time I get there, but I'm just not sure. They're desperately trying to raise the money they need in order to finish the building.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important, especially when you go on a mission trip or just serving the Lord, that you make a plan, but you understand the Lord directs your steps. And so sometimes you don't need to have every single day planned, or you do
Yeah,
have plans, and then it gets bypassed because your opportunities here and there. And
yeah,
it sounds like there'll be more than enough to do, though.
yeah. They need a lot of help, so
Yeah.
they
Well,
said they'll keep me very busy.
oh yeah, I'm just excited to share with our church and our community groups right now, just your life, how you've grown, and what you're doing, and how God has used us as a church to have just a small little impact in your life and your world. And we want to continue to support you and help you. And what are some specific things that even we could be praying for tonight? And how can we financially support just your mission trip and those type of things?
Um, well, please pray, if you would, that God would bring the finances. And then I'm praying that God will provide a little extra to be able to help, because it's very difficult financially in Brazil. Things are very expensive and it's very hard. The families don't make a lot of money, so it's very hard for them to raise money. So if I could come with a gift, that would be just wonderful. So pray that God will provide that way. Pray that God would provide protection spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
and guidance, that He would help me with the language as I'm learning Portuguese. Pray for Australia, because there's needs here as well. We need pastors, we need leaders. It's also a hard place, spiritually. So all of those things would be much appreciated if you could pray for.
Absolutely. And we'll pray for you tonight too after we watch the video and just get in groups. And lastly, how would you just like to encourage those that are watching? Maybe you know some of them, like Travis and Alicia, or maybe they don't know you and you don't know them, but they're just a part of our body. How would you want to just encourage us to keep doing the work God's called us to do?
Yeah, well, if you're not already in a community group, please get in one, but I'm guessing that you already are because you're watching this video. Just connect with your community group. Even if someone says something that offends you or something, wash it off. Just come and just connect with people, because that's the most important thing. What I noticed in South Florida is it's so easy to just get swept away with the current. That there's such a strong current that if you don't connect with your community group and really take roots with those people, you'll get swept away. So I would just encourage people just to really, really connect, just dig in deep with your community group, make relationships, and that will keep you on the right path. The Lord's been speaking something to me recently in the last week that I'd love to share with you. It's
Sure.
not a very popular opinion though, and that is, it's give up your dreams. We have all these dreams and these wants and these desires, and sometimes they're really honest and godly things that we want. And what I've learned is that you just need to lay those things down. You need to be willing to let go, even if it's a very righteous thing that you're desiring. You want more workers, or if I could speak better, if only my children were more obedient, and things like that. All those things that we want, those dreams that we have, just lay them down, because the Spirit of God can't work when you're holding on to things so tightly. Even if it's a good thing that you're holding on to, even if it's a promise that you're holding on to, be willing to just let it go, lay it down, and put your hands up and step back. And some of those things, as soon as you let go, God will lay it out just for you as an answer and give it back to you. And other times he'll give you other dreams and new desires, and he'll just lay them out for you. So that's something that I'd love to share with you guys, that has been on my heart, that that is really important. Just be willing to let go, and everything will flow. The Spirit of God will flow, and he'll give you the desires of your heart, and the desires of your heart might change. And I just want you guys to know that that what you do is really, really important. That I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys, and that you are making a difference. With all my heart, you guys are making a difference. And it's usually the ones that you least expect, or the ones that are the most messed up, that end up, doing things for the Lord. So don't be discouraged, and just continue to do what you're doing, because you are making a difference.
Well, thank you, Bethany, for that encouraging prophetic word. And yeah, it is so encouraging just to be able to talk and just see where you're at and what Jesus is doing in your life. And so we love you. We're praying for you. We do believe that you are going to be used by God in mighty ways. Whether it be in Brazil or Australia, we know that he's directed and planned your steps. And so we just can't wait to even hear a report about all the amazing things God's going to be doing through you after this trip. It's going to be amazing.
I'll look forward to talking to you guys when I get back and filling you all in. But do go to the little website I created. There's some videos on there that are really helpful about the phrase and their situation specifically. So it's bethbrazil.org.
Awesome. bethbrazil.org. And we will pray for you. We love you. And that was a little conversation with an, I don't want to even say former member, because you still feel like family. So that's a conversation with our sister in Christ, Bethany. We love you, and we're praying for you.
Love you guys. Thanks for everything.
All right.